Welcome to the Anxious Child Podcast, the podcast that helps you best work with anxious kids and teens. Now, here's your host, Stephen Quinlan.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today, we have a real treat for you. Music therapist Ryan Judd joins us today to talk about the therapeutic power of music and how he uses it in his practice working with kids who have special needs. Ryan has been a music therapist for over 20 years. His work has been featured on ABC World News Tonight. He has the most watched music therapy video on YouTube called Calming Strategies for Autism with over 1.1 million views. As a music artist himself, 3 of his relaxation albums have made it to the Billboard Top 10 chart for the New Age genre. One of the most recent albums, called An Open Sky, was on the Top 10 chart for 56 consecutive weeks. He has recordings that have been streamed over 160 million times, and he has been a featured artist on SiriusXM Spa Channel. Recently, Ryan also started working on guided meditations for children to help with stress and anxiety that are called Cool Koala. It's such a treat to have Ryan on, and I learned so much more than I expected on the interview, and it's definitely one that I took away a renewed sense of respect for the power of music and how therapeutically beneficial it can be. It's one of those things that is just right there for us, especially in today's day and age, and yet it's so easy to take for granted or even to forget how significant its effects can be. You'll notice as well, I have some different transition music for this episode, and that is all original music by Ryan. So really quick, if you haven't checked out our private Facebook group that just came out, hop on over there and ask to join. We'd love to have you. And don't forget, you can also get in touch via Instagram or the website, theanxiouschildpodcast.com. So without further ado, here is music therapist and recording artist Ryan Judd. Enjoy. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm thrilled that we finally got a chance to sit down and do this. I know we're both friends with Dr. Jolene Fernald, which is kind of how we met initially. Are you from the area? I know you're here sort of locally now. Did you grow up here or?
I've been around the country a little bit. I was actually born in Denver, Colorado.
I'm from Boulder. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I'm coming back to that. I knew that. I'm coming back to that. So born in Denver, lived there for a few years, moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan, lived there for a few years, then moved to Fairfield, Connecticut. And that was like 4th grade through high school. So those are some pretty pivotal years. Mm-hmm. And then my parents moved out to the West Coast. My dad got a job out there. So I ended up going to the University of San Diego to do my undergraduate in psychology, and then to Boulder, Colorado, to do my master's degree. And
you went to CU?
I went to Naropa University.
Oh, Naropa. Oh,
yes.
Even cooler. Nice.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about that later, I'm sure. But
awesome.
But that was amazing. And then stayed in Boulder for a while. So started private practice right out of graduate school, and then about 12 years ago moved out to Exeter, New Hampshire, and we love it out here.
Okay, nice. I love it. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about your Naropa experience. For those people that aren't familiar, it's a Buddhist university that is there in Boulder, Colorado. So tell me a little bit. I'm really interested in how you got started doing what you're doing as a music therapist. Can you tell me about the background of that and how this sort of came to be?
Yeah, well, I always loved working with kids. That was my thing. I just have this natural way to connect with kids and have fun and be silly and make them laugh and be sensitive. And so ever since I could get a job, I would start with babysitting and then worked as a camp counselor and all that. So I always knew I wanted to work with kids, right? And then I got this really strong interest in psychology and child development. And that brought me to University of San Diego to do my undergrad in psychology. But then, you graduate with a bachelor's in psychology, there's only so much you can do. So I started looking into graduate programs, and I had never even heard of music therapy. And at that time, I'm kind of a late bloomer of a musician. At that time, I was becoming really passionate about learning the guitar and learning fingerstyle instrumental guitar, and was taking lessons and just practicing like crazy. And I was really getting into the Eastern arts as well, meditation and yoga and that whole spiritual thought. And so I found Naropa University, and it was like, what? Music therapy? What's this? They never taught me this. What is this field? And so I started researching that, and then just the program was such a perfect fit because it combined my love of working with children, because I knew I could become a music therapist working with children, my interest in psychology and my passion for music. It just brought it all together. And that Eastern philosophy, I'm not Buddhist, but not too many of the students who go to Naropa are, but certainly there is that Buddhist influence. And more particularly, there is that influence of mindfulness and meditation. I mean, that was a required class for me. I had to take meditation for 3 years. I had to go on a silent retreat. I had to have a private meditation mentor. I had to go to a psychotherapist for a year. And so the education at Naropa was so amazing. It was so experiential. And just that stream of mindfulness that really went throughout the entire curriculum was such an amazing addition and such a pivotal part of my education as a therapist and a human being.
That's so interesting. I suppose I should have phrased that earlier a little bit better, that it's more sort of mindfulness based. It's not Buddhist university. It doesn't really quite do it credit. I know there's that slant to it. And to be honest, even being from Boulder, I don't know a whole lot about it because I went to CU and then I went to New York after that. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with it, but that's fascinating how that all kind of came together for you there. All these passions that you had in your life were all kind of contained in music and therapy and music therapy. There was a story that I saw about you and your grandmother, and when you went to the hospital, can you talk about that a little bit and tell me where that was on your development and becoming a music therapist?
Yeah, I believe I was just in the middle of my music therapy program and knew that would be one of the last times I'd be seeing my grandma. And she's from Hungary, and they escaped during the People's Revolution in 56. And so her English was very limited. And especially as she's getting closer to the last days of her life, I knew that the way I wanted to connect with her and show her my love was not through words, but through music. And so I brought my guitar, and it was just, you're walking through these really like sterile hallways that just, you can feel the suffering, you can feel the loneliness. It's visceral walking through those hallways. And then going into her room and seeing her and offering her my music. I just played her a lovely little classical piece on the guitar, an instrumental piece, and she said that was good for my heart. That was good for my soul. My mom was kind of interpreting because she was speaking in Hungarian. It was just this beautiful moment where I really was one of my first experiences of the deep therapeutic power and the deep power of music to communicate on nonverbal levels.
One of the things I love about that story is how it transformed the environment that you were in, this cold, sterile, depressing. I mean, a lot of people don't like hospitals, understandably so, to just a totally different experience for you and for your grandma and sort of presumably everybody that was there in the room. So I'd love to talk about that power, the transformative power that music has, and how that can be applied to working with kids who have anxiety, kids who have special needs. And how do you go about doing that? What does that look like?
Yeah, it can take many different forms. I've been doing a lot of work with my clients with breath work, and I've been writing personalized songs for them
Oh, wow.
about what they can do when they're feeling stressed or anxious about something. And the cool thing is you can, by talking to their parents and teachers and talking to them and observing, you can really find out what some of their triggers are, and you can incorporate that into the song.
Mm.
So that's been a really great way to sing about some of their challenges and struggles, and then offer within the song the cognitive behavioral strategy for what they can do to deal with it. And then practice some of these strategies within the song. Like my songs allow for us to breathe together, and the music supports that. And I feel like the music just takes it to a deeper level, because it's nice to just sit and take deep breaths. But when you have some calming music supporting that, just on a neurological level, it's really supporting that relaxation effect. It's really activating that parasympathetic nervous system. And so it's great to also have the musical cue of the inhale and the exhale. So it's just a very engaging, motivating, and deep way to work on some of these strategies and to personalize them for my clients.
There was a really beautiful video I saw of you working with an autistic man who was also blind.
Yes.
And you had, I guess it's called a lap harp. That's just sort of a
Yes.
small harp that sits on your lap, aptly named.
Yeah.
And as you would do the inhale with him, you would sort of go one way on it. And then the exhale, you would go the other way. And you could just see his engagement with you. And I was thinking something similar to what you were saying, that like it's this whole other level of, okay, you're practicing your breath and, these strategies, and maybe they've heard something like that before, but there's something else there that takes it to another place when you integrate the music like that.
For sure. And just when you think about neurologically what's happening when you listen to music, it's activating multiple regions of the brain simultaneously. So I just feel like it's on a neurological level, it's also a great fit, because it's opening up all these centers of your brain, all these neural pathways at the same time while you're learning and practicing this. So I just feel like it's more easily memorable, and it can be more easily accessible when they really need it. It's almost like getting a song stuck in your head, right?
Yeah.
And when you think about the song, you can kind of hear the melody. So I really try to use a lot of repetition. But that's one of the cool things I want to point out about music. You get the repetition without the monotony, right? I mean, whether you're working on a social skill or a relaxation skill, you can practice many of those deep breath cycles without it kind of being boring and monotonous, because it's wrapped up within music, within a song. And I mean, think about music and song structure, how repetitive some of the most famous songs ever. The chorus is such a simple, repetitive, and it goes on and on and on. I'm just thinking about like some of like the Police songs, like Walking on the Moon or something. I mean, if you counted how many times he says like Walking on the Moon, and you lose track, or Beatles tuners or whatever. It's just music in general, right? People crave that repetition in music. Yet if it's just delivered verbally, you might run into some boredom.
Yeah. I love that. That makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of something I heard recently of a study of a man who had a traumatic brain injury and had lost his ability to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was going through rehab and they're trying all these things and nothing's working. And then one day somebody had brought in some music. I think it was even by accident. And those were his first words. Like he remembered this song, this chorus from long, long ago, that it was stuck in his head, as you were saying. I think the Germans call it an earworm, is the way that's translated. It was just like it's in there, and it's remembered in a different place in your brain than all of these other things that we're just hearing verbally all the time.
Yeah, well, some of the most exciting work in the field of music therapy is done with neurological music therapy, which is mostly working with people recovering from strokes, people dealing with Parkinson's, traumatic brain injury, relearning to speak. I mean, there's that famous story of, I think she's Representative Gabby Giffords, and she got shot in the head, and the music therapist working with her was able to get her talking again, because first they worked on singing. Hello, how are you? And trying to match the inflection of a natural voice. I'm probably not doing that right, but matching the natural inflection of the voice. And you work with these clients singing these common phrases, and as they get the ability to sing them with more articulation, then you start to transition to a speaking voice, because the speaking part of the brain is different from the singing part, but they run parallel. So it's this really cool way to bridge that gap and help people relearn their speech through music therapy.
That's so fascinating. When you're working with, particularly with kids and kids who have anxiety, is it sort of incorporating those, as you said, those cognitive behavioral strategies into a personalized song that you've come up with for them, and that is what helps them to manage their anxiety? Or are there other things in addition to that?
Oh yeah, there's lots of other things. So I took this really amazing class through this local yoga educational company, Child Light Yoga. You probably know of them.
I do. I certainly do. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing amazing stuff. Wow.
Yeah.
So I did this long weekend workshop, and it was all about yoga and mindfulness for diverse abilities. And it was really pivotal, because at that point, I was starting to really come to the realization that, wow, almost all my clients are struggling with anxiety. And without addressing that piece first, it's going to be really hard to make progress with other types of goals that I was working on, like social skills and communication skills, maybe motor skill development. So all those other goals that I'm addressing, it's just so hard. So I realized, okay, I need to learn more about this, and I need to come up with more strategies and ways to help my clients with the anxiety piece first. And I feel like too, as they get older, it's funny because most of my clients now are more like young adults, because I started working with them 10, 12 years ago, and I continue to work with them.
Wow.
So at this point, really the focus of a couple of my clients, it is just that anxiety piece. So we do a lot of super mellow seated yoga. I'll put on some calming music that I know they like, and we'll just go through some really, really simple, basic seated yoga moves. We'll use that breathing ball, and we'll illustrate that with inhales and exhales. Oh, and by the way, I want to make sure that we're offering your listeners something they can easily take away. So I've got a video of me going through these seated yoga moves, and a video of me singing this one little song, and a couple other videos that I'd like to upload to my Google Drive, and I'll just send you the link. You could put it in the show notes. So if people want to try these with their kids or their clients, they'll just have them at their fingertips. Is that cool?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll put that in the show notes. Yeah, that would be great.
All right. Awesome. So these seated yoga moves to settle and to get into the body, these slow breathing techniques. I also like to do a lot of focused listening. So I'll have a chime bell, and this will be in a video too. And I'll just do focused listening to a chime bell. And one of the things I like to do too is before any of the songs we do, it always begins with starting in silence, nice deep breath. And then from silence, we move into the song. It just feels like taking this little moment to get grounded and to focus your attention and focus your thoughts helps so much just set the stage for both of us entering into the music in the best open state possible.
There was a video I saw of you where you were kind of coming up with a song with another child, and you guys were just improvising, and you were kind of playing on the guitar and you would sing something, and it was very clear that you were also working in some of those strategies like you talked about, and he was kind of wailing away in his own, in his own thing, which was like, it was just so awesome that he had this freedom to do whatever he wanted to do with his voice. But one of those strategies was for him to take a break. And then in the middle of the song, you stopped and you said, and we're going to take and then you just let it hang out there.
Yeah.
And my thought was, that was so wonderful, that space. And it is unusual that when there are other people around, that there's permission to do that. And I think that as therapists and, maybe even as parents, we're very quick to jump into that space. Be like, take and then, after a second or something, like a break, it's a break, like that's where, are you not listening? Like, this is what we're going for here.
Yeah, for sure.
But you just let it hang there for so long. And I found that really interesting.
Well, I think I attribute that to my training at Naropa. Our first meditation class, right? I had met 2 out of the 15, 20 people in my meditation class. And the teacher says, okay, pair up with someone in the room who you haven't met yet. And we had to sit across from each other and gaze into each other's eyes in silence for 5 minutes.
I bet that's intense. Pretty hard. Yeah.
It was intense, but it just set the stage for the importance of silence in therapy. And as parents too, I feel like it's important to create moments of silence where there isn't any distractions or noise, or just appreciating the sounds of nature. I mean, I'm always in the woods in the backyard with my kids, and I always love to just create silent moments where we can just listen to the sounds of nature and observe. And certainly with my clients, I feel like I like to give them that space and that silence. And whether it's one of my very verbal clients and they're talking about their struggles of their first year in college, and they stop a sentence and I just hang for a few seconds to see if they're going to peel away another layer of the onion. Or if it's in music where I let that hang and use that technique to give them the time and the space to process. And some kids process more slowly.
Sure.
And I just find it frustrating as a therapist when I see another adult like just jump in and continually finish kids' sentences or answer the questions or over prompt. I'm always pulling back so much to give my clients the freedom and space to provide an answer or say something or go deeper with something or just listen to the silence.
Yeah, it's part of our training as therapists is that you have to be comfortable with that silence. And I feel like a lot of therapists know that on like a cerebral level, but it's so difficult in practice to do that because I guess it's societal that we're expected to fill silences with something. And certainly the sort of breakneck pace of our culture at the moment, everything is go, go, go. Look at this, look at that. That goes counter to that and it can be really difficult, but yet so productive to if you just provide that space. I'm wondering, so obviously as a therapist myself and somebody who is somewhat of an amateur musician, I do have a guitar here in my office.
Nice.
um, I'm wondering, how do you find that, is there resistance among other therapists that maybe to integrate music into their work at all, or do people not know how to do that? Like in my own experience, I sometimes will have some teens who come in and they'll see it over there and be like, oh cool, what do you play or whatever, and it's like a a talking point right away.
Yeah.
Or they will kind of fiddle around with it as they're talking to me or something,
Yeah.
but it's not obviously that same way that you're doing that. And I don't know if maybe I have some sort of unconscious bias or something towards bringing music into the room.
Yeah, well, I feel like the important thing is to mention some really easy ways that parents and therapists
Okay. Yeah.
who are non-musicians, right?
Yeah.
Most of us can incorporate some music and into their child or client's life. So I feel like with highly verbal clients, maybe older kids, what a great way to explore some deeper feelings and emotions to have them bring in some of their favorite songs, appropriate or not, depending on your style. You could be like, anything goes, kid, whatever you want to listen to, bring it into the office. We'll just make sure no one else can hear it.
Right.
But obviously, in a classroom setting, you got to be appropriate.
Yeah.
And play the music, do focused listening. I mean, there's the challenge right there, to do some focused listening to the music. So they're not working on other projects, side chatter. They're not noodling around. They're just listening and really listening deeply to the music and the lyrics. And then having the lyrics printed out and taking a look. Oh, it's so interesting. This person here is singing about, this dark tunnel that they're entering. Wow, that's interesting. I could kind of relate to that in my life a couple ways. Have you ever felt like you've been going into a dark tunnel and let it hang? There's a silence, right? So I just feel like through lyric examination, exploration, lyric analysis, you can really pull out some themes that a client might be latching onto.
Yeah.
And give that as a way to explore those feelings and possibly some strategies for dealing with that. Have you ever tried anything like that?
I did many years ago when I used to work at Seacoast Mental Health, which you're probably familiar with.
Yeah.
And I did a music group for teens where it was small. I want to say there were like 4 or 5 kids in it, but it really was just, they would all bring in their iPods at the time.
Yeah.
That tells you how long ago that was. And we would just take turns playing a song. And then people would talk about the song. And it was fascinating. And there was so much discussion around how they judged each other initially, and also with what kind of music they thought that person would listen to. So that was fascinating. But I also remember thinking myself, because I felt like I couldn't, get away with, as the facilitator, be like, you guys bring in your music and let's see what you got, to bring in mine, that there's this opening of yourself there to what is really a very profound place. And I think particularly therapists a lot of times struggle with that, because many of us are taught to be very closed off and very separate from the client. So that was kind of my experience with that. Yeah.
That's odd. I mean, obviously there's therapeutic boundaries. And I feel like what a wonderful way to establish trust and rapport by opening up a little about yourself, maybe.
Right, of course.
Some of your own struggles and challenges, knowing, hey, I'm a human being too. I have a I suffer as well. And you know what? These are some of the things that have helped me too. So I think that's so important to obviously pick wisely about what you're talking about, but to open up a little bit, be a little bit vulnerable to your clients with a therapeutic purpose of teaching them, hey, I'm human, I struggle, and this is what has helped me.
Right. I think you have to, as you're saying, you have to walk a little bit of a line there between, you don't want to make this all about you.
Yeah,
But if you're,
totally.
you'd be like, so I remember when my mother first,
20 minutes later.
But as long as you're not doing that, I feel like if you're doing it, one of the things that I feel like I've learned even since then is that if you're doing that in service of the relationship between you and the client, you're doing that in service of helping them, that it can be very powerful and very connecting. So I think probably just being judicious with it and aware of why you're doing it. But it's like, it feels like a crime not to use it because it is so powerful.
Yeah, well, let's bring it to all the parents out there listening. What a great way to teach your children by having that moment of awareness to say, wow, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. I need to listen to some calming music, take a breath, walk outside for a second, let daddy take over, let mommy take over, whatever, wow, I'm feeling really anxious about this podcast interview coming up.
That can't be right.
I think I'm going to put on my playlist of relaxing music. Speaking of playlists, that's another thing that I think is such an easy thing for parents and other therapists to do, is to create different playlists. Obviously, playlists, let's focus on relaxation playlist with your clients or with your kids. And the music's going to be different. I mean, yes, the research shows that instrumental music between 60 and 90 beats per minute, 60 beats per minute to 90, like resting heart rate, is without a lot of variation and big dynamics and crescendos and odd key changes and things like that, is ideal for relaxation. But there's a big variation there. My boy, who is diagnosed with anxiety and ADHD, I put on my own music or music that's similar to it, instrumental, slow tempo, and hey, Alexa, turn it off.
What a surprise.
Man, it gets me every time. It's too sappy. So whether it's me or another artist, so I can't use that music. Now, what I've been using lately with him is chill hop. Now, a lot of people probably don't know what chill hop music is, but it's really cool. I listen to it myself.
Yeah, it's got beats to it though.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's got hip hop influences. So you're working with any kid like age 9, 10, 11 and up. Chill hop can be a really cool genre to explore with them for finding music that helps them relax. And the cool thing is, most chill hop music is between 60 and 90 beats per minute. Most chill hop music is instrumental. And if it has any vocals, it's usually just a vocalization, not actual words. So I feel like with my boy, that's what I've been using recently, is I've been putting on chill hop music. And because it has a beat, he likes it. And it helps create a nice mellow vibe, especially in the mornings, when things are crazy. Because he's 6 and we've got a 3-year-old, so mornings can be insane. So that is very helpful. But creating these playlists of relaxing music with your child or your client can be a really great way to do it. And then there's no like, I got to go to Spotify and search and I'm going to get like frazzled because I'm looking for it. Oh, I don't like that song. And oh, no, that one's. It's just nice to have at least 5, 6 songs in a playlist at your fingertips that you can access.
And it's so much easier to not have to worry about all those things. If you're feeling anxious or upset or whatever it is, to just know, I find that's always been really important in terms of strategies. It just has to be like, 2 or 3 things that I can go to these things, and it's very simple, and I don't really have to think. You can even just ask your smart device or whatever to put on this stuff, and you almost don't have to do anything other than just verbalize it, which is great.
At your fingertips.
Yeah, it's amazing. Of course, he doesn't like you with your old school non-beat music, Dad. Like what?
Of course.
Yeah, love that. That's really cool. So, why do you think that so many kids are anxious these days? Obviously, you mentioned your son and the anxiety and the ADHD, and I'm sure you're aware that it just is this epidemic of anxiety, also depression and other things, but kind of anxiety in particular. Do you have any sense as to, like, for you, where do you feel like that's coming from?
I feel like part of it is the way we've evolved as human beings over the past few hundred years, where we're outside of our tribe. I mean, you know how hard it is being a parent without a tribe surrounding you, without a grandma, aunt, cousin, uncle within a quarter mile, a half mile to say, "Can you watch my boy?
Yeah.
I gotta go hunt."
Right. Go hunt.
or a poor mom being like, "Can you spend 4 hours in the middle of the night with my son so I can actually sleep for 4 hours straight?"
Yeah.
In the first 4 months of life. Oh man, that was a doozy.
Yep.
So I think moving away from that structure into these more separated neighborhoods, and we're in a neighborhood, we have great neighbors, but it's I'm not going to call my neighbor over at 11 at night. Can you Jim, spend 3 hours with my boy? So part of that, I also feel like the lack of activity, physical activity, I feel like moving away from that really intense activity of hunting and gathering and farming. I feel like most kids with anxiety and ADHD would do pretty well if they were just like on a farm doing farm chores and using these awesome visual spatial skills that they may have, and using their body and their strength and their energy, and oh my god, they don't need to take a nap, they just keep going. I mean, I've only seen him tired once in his whole life in the middle of the day, and that was because he was sick.
Right.
It's remarkable, it's special, it's a gift. If it can just be channeled. So I feel like with our move toward sitting so much, whether you're sitting in off a job or sitting in a school, and kind of having that structure surround our kids instead of a more like active, creative, expressive, outdoor, nature-based structure, can be challenging for certain kids and can spike some of that anxiety. So I think that's part of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a great answer. I mean, it's a multifaceted thing, so you could kind of go with that wherever you wanted to go. But I do think that is a big piece of the puzzle. We know, even just neurologically, that one of the things that helps the most with anxiety, and certainly also with depression, is physical exercise and movement.
Yep.
All those things that you mentioned. My son works on a farm, actually.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. So, and it's just like, I mean, he's 14 now, but like it's channeling all of those, the energy really at a lot of stages in kids' development. There's so much energy and there's so much curiosity and wanting to learn. And I think a part of what you're talking about too is just the load as parents that we have these days, that like, because there's not that community, that all falls on you, either mom or dad, or, if you're a single parent, I don't know how you do that. God bless you, because it's just, it's so much. And you only have so much as a human being that you can offer. The grandma or the grandpa or whoever, even the neighbors, and some, have all these different experiences and things that they could teach your kid that you just can't.
Yep.
So it does feel like we've lost something there.
For sure. Yeah. That, and going to that point too, Wow, dealing with anxiety, that's tough. That's really tough, whether you're a therapist or a parent or a teacher. And the beautiful thing is some of these tools we're talking about, the movement, the yoga, the focused listening to music, having the relaxation playlist, the breathing. Like this is all stuff that we need to be doing as parents and
Yeah.
therapists and teachers so that we can be more grounded and we can be more calm and we can be more of an example around our own kids or our clients or our students. So I just encourage everyone listening, hey, take these and apply them to yourself. Please take some time for yourself. I mean, when's the last time, you put on some headphones and laid on the floor on a yoga mat and just listened to some of your favorite relaxation music? That
Mm-hmm.
we barely take the time to do that, yet it can be so powerful. When's the last time, you took time to do a guided meditation or take some time to do some movement or created a relaxation playlist for yourself? That's huge. I feel like we all need that. So the cool thing is when I'm in a session, and I'm playing the guitar or I'm using some pre-recorded music while we're doing little seated yoga or I'm leading a guided meditation, that music is helping calm me. When teachers, because I sell a lot of my music, and so I get this awesome feedback from teachers who use the music in their classroom, and it helps settle the teacher as well as the kid. It's just a win-win. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. My wife, who is a teacher, who teaches first grade, she always has some sort of Pandora or Spotify something playlist going in her
Yeah,
classroom. And when you go in, it's
yeah,
like the lights are a little bit
yeah,
low, the music is going, and I'm like, oh, how great for the kids. But then at the same time, like as you're saying, for you, for yourself to just all kind of be in this other place. And I love your music, the sort of finger picking style that you use in the guitar. You may be playing in my wife's classroom pretty soon, just so you
yeah.
know.
Awesome.
You might be on her. I'm like, you need to add this guy to your playlist. Uh, but I know, again, as a somewhat of an amateur, how difficult that is to do that kind of style. But it's really, there's something very soothing to it.
Yeah, I think part of it, and when people are looking for music that speaks to them and that helps them relax, I just encourage people to really look for instrumental music, again, because we don't want our brain to be activated, the language
Processing.
processing,
Yeah.
exactly, part of our brain to be activated, to be figuring out these words and lyrics and what do they mean. We want the tempo to be slowish, different people, obviously people who are more highly active might respond better to a slightly higher tempo, but the middle of the ground, the bell curve is really in that kind of 60 90 beat per minute. And to find music that breathes, and that's one thing that I've really worked hard as a guitarist to develop a style. Well, actually, it's funny, I haven't worked hard, it's just come really naturally, but I notice it more than ever that I can play in a way that lets the music breathe. Here, let me
Okay.
grab my guitar here. I'll
Yeah.
kind of give you an
Yeah. I was
example.
wondering what you meant by that. I was like, what does that mean?
So I could play this little passage and I could play it in a way that doesn't breathe. That would be very kind of straight with no space. And I'll
Okay.
show you what that would be like. All right, cool. Now let me let it breathe.
It's beautiful. It has the space in it,
Yeah,
as I think we were talking about earlier.
yeah.
Well, it's beautiful. I'm almost asleep over here. It was like really
Nice.
relaxing. I was like, my brain was like, oh, I have all these other things and questions, and then all of a sudden it was just like it was all gone. Is there anything that you would like to say to people just in general, some kind of takeaway message about music or managing their anxiety or difficulties?
Yeah, I feel like kind of comes back to thinking about the beauty and power and accessibility of music. I almost see it like it's this medicine chest, like this chest of medications that don't have any side effects.
Right. Yes.
And are free for the most part.
Very,
very inexpensive.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
$10 a month Spotify account
right,
if you really
can handle that.
free YouTube. So anyways, and you open up this medicine chest, right? And there's this this pill box or this pill container that says, focus. And there's this one that says energize. And there's this one that says sleep. And there's this one that says calm. And those are different playlists right there, right? And you can just reach for whichever one you need. Is it a cure-all? No, come on. Should it be part of your approach to dealing with anxiety and stress and life and emotions? Without a doubt. And you can be so much more intentional than the average person with music by thinking about it in that way, by being intentional about your use of music and reminding yourself to go for that music when you need help sleeping or relaxing or focusing or energizing or just feeling good. Maybe you just need you want a little music on a Saturday morning to kind of pick up the mood of yourself and get you ready for the day. It's just such a beautiful, wonderful thing. And with all the neuroscience these days and, schools like Berkeley School of Music and their music therapy program partnering with MIT doing these neuroscans and seeing the brain just explode in fireworks when people are listening to music in a focused way and are actively participating, making music. I'm sure that's a whole nother level, but still, it's really beautiful what's people are realizing the power of music. And it's just, and we all know it. On an anecdotal level, we all know it. I mean, music is in all of our lives. What would life be without music? Oh, I don't want to think about that. And it can be a way to help you express. That's been one of my most important uses of music. The other night, my mom sent me these beautiful home movies, before there was even sound. So I don't know what they were, something millimeter, 8mm, whatever, I don't know. And that she had digitized. And so I'm watching these clips that I have never seen before. And I've got this, pretty somber, sweet, emotional instrumental music playing while I'm watching these. And, it just was such a cathartic experience for me because it gave a soundtrack to this film and it allowed me to open my heart and really express myself and let some tears fly and feel like, oh my God, I'm mourning my grandfather's death for the first time because I didn't go to his funeral. I was too young. And now I'm adult and I see the importance of embracing everything he did for our family and escaping from Hungary and coming here and starting a new life and giving me the honor and privilege of living in this country with all the freedoms that I've had. And it just gave me a chance to really open my heart and let the tears roll and feel like I was connecting with him. So on so many deep levels, I feel like music can be such a beautiful thing.
Well, I can feel that sort of has this ineffable quality to it, but yet is so profound in so many ways that you're describing. And as you said, and that we all know, but I think also just for you and the work that you're doing, I think has a lot of those same qualities to it. Like it just, if if people go and check out, some of the videos and even just the music itself, I really feel like that comes across honestly. So it's beautiful work that you're doing. And I applaud you for trying to help other people via that medium. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, that was Ryan Judd. His website is therhythmtree.com. You can also look up his name. It's Ryan Judd in your favorite streaming application. It's on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, Pandora, YouTube, etc. I'm putting links in the show notes for some of those things that he mentioned in the show. Focused listening to a chime bell, focused listening to a guitar, and deep breath and yoga warm-ups as well. Ryan's also going to be providing us with a bonus meditation, which I will release later this week. Don't forget, if you're listening to the show and you have any comments or questions, we would love to hear from you. Don't hesitate to get in touch via Facebook, Instagram, or theanxiouschildpodcast.com. And let's have Ryan take us out today. Be well and be in touch.
This podcast is not intended as medical or psychological treatment. In no way should it replace treatment from a mental health professional.